I am a single mother to 2 boys, and I'm ending it tomorrow. I'm tired. I'm more than tired. I feel like I can't go on. Antidepressants didn't help, and therapy didn't help when my circumstances are so difficult. I'm 30, and my kids are 11 and 9. I grew up with a narcissistic father and a mother who didn't protect me. My father married me off to another abusive man at 18, and I had 2 children with him. I never had a choice. Somehow, I convinced my ex to let me move in with my mother to enroll my kids in a better school. For the first time, everyone agreed. This was in 2020. I wasn't allowed to work, and I was constantly monitored. My father and ex controlled everything. When I asked for a divorce, everything changed. He stopped paying for the kids' school fees, began stalking me, and made threats. He even came to my mother's house to intimidate me, confining me to one room for 4 months. Then, he kidnapped my children. I fought hard in court to get them back, selling everything I owned to do so. Now, he's filed a custody case against me. The school fees have been overdue for 3 years, and my children don't have proper clothes. I can't send them to school, because I don't have the money. The school has issued a notice, and my mother hides food from us. If I buy anything, she and my sister take it. I can't move out because I have no funds, and I'm struggling to find a job. The court date is approaching, and if he gets the kids, I fear for their future. I can handle a lot, but I can't bear the thought of my children suffering. The school has been understanding, but even they are losing hope. The debt keeps me awake at night. My kids deserve so much better than this. Today feels like the final day. I'll tell my children to be strong, even though I feel like the weakest person in the world. I'm reading all the comments, but I'm too low to respond. Thank you for taking the time to read this. To those who think it's a scam, please try to have some empathy. My entire struggle has been to save my kids. I'm still here, but I'm overwhelmed. Some people are telling me to find faith, and I just can't. I've received messages from men asking for inappropriate pictures in exchange for money, and I don't know how to respond. The total school fees are about $7,300, and I don't have a way to raise that here. I'm from India, where there are no shelters or restraining orders. I've tried every avenue for help, and I'm just so tired. I'm in debt and facing threats from those I borrowed from. I know my kids need me, and I'm aware that ending my life would ruin everything, but it feels like the walls are closing in. I can't breathe, and I struggle to even look at my children. I want to get out of this, but I don't want to fight anymore. To anyone who doubts my love for my kids, I can't even think about them being hurt. They are my entire world. But right now, I feel lost and alone. AITA for snapping at my uncle after he kept calling me a girl because of my hair? I'm a 19-year-old guy with long curly hair. I've been growing it out for a few years, and I take pride in how I care for it. I use conditioner, leave-ins, and curl creams to keep it looking nice. The brand I use even has a little silhouette of a woman on it, which I guess adds to the confusion. Last week, my girlfriend had a really stressful week, so I decided to cook her dinner. My parents were going to be late, so I set up candles, wrote her a card, and added some flowers to make it special. As I was preparing, my uncle, who's 52 and currently living with us, walked in. He looked around at the candles and said, "This looks like something a girl would set up." I didn't respond at first, but then he added, "You do a lot of girly stuff for a guy." He even commented on my hair, saying with all that girly hair stuff too, "You're really selling it." I finally told him to back off, and he just laughed, saying, "Relax, don't be so sensitive." As I continued setting up, he made more comments like, "Careful, don't break a nail," and kept bringing up how cooking for her was girly. I tried to brush it off, but it was really getting under my skin. I snapped and said, "Why would I take relationship advice from you? You're divorced, and you can't talk about my hair when you're literally bald." That set him off. He got right in my face, saying I crossed a line by bringing up his divorce and that I was being disrespectful. We were both heated, and eventually, he stormed out of the kitchen. Later, my mom talked to me. She understood why I was upset, but thought I should apologize since he's already embarrassed about his situation. She didn't want us to have issues.
Now I'm starting to wonder if I crossed a line and went too far.
I stopped loving my mom when I was 7. I remember the moment my love and admiration for her vanished. I was just a child, having my best friend over for a sleepover. It was late, and we were both tired, but there was one thing I needed before I could drift off. A hug and a goodnight kiss from my mom. I tiptoed to her bedroom, but she was on the phone with my dad. I waited for a while, but eventually I went back to my room. A little later, after my friend had fallen asleep, I returned to her room. Maybe I was too loud or too demanding with my need for affection. I was exhausted and just wanted some comfort. Then, in a moment that shattered everything, she slapped me across the face. It was the first and only time she ever did that. I was stunned. She didn't even apologize. Instead, she yelled at me to leave and continued her conversation as if nothing had happened, telling my dad I was annoying her. I crawled into bed, tears streaming down my face, and cried myself to sleep. From that night on, I could never look at her the same way again. I never asked for a hug or a kiss goodnight after that. She had to remind me for a while, but eventually she stopped asking altogether. I stopped loving my mom that night, at least in the way I once had. She never acknowledged what happened. Years later, when I brought it up in my 20s, she claimed not to remember. Her apology felt insincere, like, I don't recall that, but I'm sorry if it hurt you. My parents were in their late 40s then, and this was over 30 years ago, but my relationship with her changed forever. I became difficult with her, fighting constantly. My patience vanished, and my temper flared at the slightest annoyance. I wish I could change this. I've been in therapy and on medication, but nothing seems to help. That night altered me in a way that only affects my relationship with her. My bond with my father was wonderful. It's only my mom who brings out these struggles. I wish I had just gone to bed that first time instead of waiting for her love. I miss the innocence I had, the belief that someone you love could never hurt you. The axe forgets, but the tree will always carry the scars. I never expected such a response when I shared this. I know my experience isn't unique, but it feels good to know I'm not alone. I'm truly sorry to everyone who has faced a similar situation. The adults in your life let you down, and if I could, I would give you all a big hug. I hope you're all finding your way to better places.
Girlfriend told me she doesn't want to hear about my dumb bird anymore. I feel so foolish. I'm a 38-year-old man who loves birds, especially parrots. My African gray, Vivian, means the world to me. She's had a tough life, having been severely abused before I adopted her. When I first brought her home at 20, she was frightened and aggressive. Over time, she's made incredible progress. She can fly a little, talks to me, and even tells me she loves me. Vivian has been my lifeline through some of my darkest moments. There were times when I felt completely lost, but her attachment to me kept me going. Now I'm in a relationship with my first girlfriend, who is 27. She's incredibly special to me. I've never kissed anyone before her, and I cherish our time together. Most of the time she's sweet, but something shifted recently. I didn't think I talked too much about my bird. I love sharing pictures of Vivian with her because I find her so adorable. I might share fun facts about birds now and then, but she always seemed interested and even said my passion was attractive. Then, one evening, I sent her a picture of Vivian sitting on my knee. Instead of her usual compliment, I was met with, "Why do you keep sending me this? I don't care, it's just a bird." We weren't arguing, it was just a normal conversation about our days. But then she went on to say it was strange for a grown man to be so obsessed with a silly animal, calling it immature and saying animals are worthless because of their limited intelligence. I felt so embarrassed. I never meant to come off as obsessive or annoying. I just don't know much about relationships, and I guess I feel lost.
My husband didn't get me anything for Christmas. I need to share this because I don't feel like I can talk to anyone about it tonight. As the title says, my husband didn't get me a thing for Christmas. We're both 28 and have been married for a little over a year, but we've been together since our freshman year of college. We just celebrated 10 years together. What upsets me the most is that I was the one who organized everything. I bought gifts for his parents, his siblings, my parents, my brother, and everyone else. I made cookies, wrapped every gift, and decorated our home. The only thing he helped with was carrying the tree from the garage. 2 days ago, he sat me down and said he had something really difficult to tell me. He admitted he didn't have anything for me for Christmas. He had ideas that excited him, but didn't act on any of them, and now it was too late. He mentioned that he went to the mall earlier that day and almost bought something expensive, but ultimately didn't. It's not about the gifts. It's the lack of effort that hurts. For my birthday, he knew I wanted to go to a concert I couldn't get tickets for. On the day of my birthday, he said he'd get the tickets, but wanted to wait until closer to the date. When the day arrived, he forgot until I reminded him the night before. We didn't go. Our first anniversary was in October, and I didn't receive flowers, a card, or anything. We both have good jobs and work hard. Our rent is affordable, and we don't have many bills or any debt. I know we're blessed for that, and we worked hard to get here. Yes, he's busy at work, but he doesn't do much outside of it. He comes home, maybe does some dishes, and then focuses on watching sports and fantasy football. I never set a precedent for doing everything alone like I did this Christmas. When we returned home from family festivities today, I quietly told him, I know it's not about the gifts, but I can't believe you didn't get me anything. It feels worse that you went to the mall, knowing I wouldn't have anything under the tree. He responded by saying he asked me what I wanted 5 times, but I couldn't give him any ideas. That's partially true. I'm not the easiest person to shop for. But if that's his defense, he didn't give me any ideas for what to get him either. Then he got angry and said I couldn't do what I wanted, but he was still going to have a good night. Now, I'm silently crying in bed while he's watching football on the couch. I feel like a brat for writing all of this, because it really isn't about the gifts. But for some reason, this has made me so incredibly sad. And yes, there are a handful of gifts from me to him under the tree.
My boyfriend of 3 months just blindsided me. It turns out he was performing the entire relationship. I met him at a speed dating event 3 months ago. For the first 2 months, I thought I'd finally found someone special. He was consistent, organized, and didn't rush intimacy. He remembered every detail I shared, asked deep questions, and even helped me with chores without being asked. We had what I thought was incredible synchronicity. I had a dream about a car accident, and he got into a minor one that same morning. We had the same scores in mini-golf. We even yawned at the same time. On my birthday, he asked me to be his girlfriend. But then, on New Year's Eve, things shifted. He took me to meet his friends, but refused to take a photo with me. He was cold for the rest of the night. His friends kissed their girlfriends at midnight, but he didn't even look my way. When I asked why later, he told me he wanted his friends to see him as a robot with no feelings. I also noticed he was a total follower in that group. Even though they were disorganized and he claimed to value time, he just did whatever the group leader said. After we got home, I told him I wouldn't be joining that group again, and he seemed fine with it. Then, after the new year, he ended things. He said he needed a lot of alone time, and that seeing me twice a week was taking a lot from him. He claimed he felt no personal growth. I was confused, so I pushed for the truth. It turns out he had been performative since day one. He told me that getting me a cake and a gift went against his morals, but he did it anyway because it's what people do. I had only asked for flowers. He suggested activities like bowling and escape rooms, then later admitted he hated them and only proposed them because they are normal dates. He resented me taking photos of him, even though he never once mentioned it. Meeting up twice a week was too much for him, but he never discussed it with me to find a middle ground. Now he says he needs a 1-month break to decide if he wants to be with me, giving it a 50-50 chance. Honestly, after discovering that the perfect guy I met was a total fabrication, I feel disappointed, but also relieved. He thinks the bare minimum, gifts, dates, communication, is an exhausting performance. I realized I haven't just lost a boyfriend. I realized the person I was dating didn't actually exist. I never asked him for anything. Friends constantly one-up us financially. How do I shut this down without ending the friendship? My husband and I have been close friends with a married couple since school. We've shared 22 years of memories together, and they truly are our best friends. But since becoming parents to our toddlers, the dynamic has shifted, and it feels like we're caught in a financial competition. The husband earns a significant income, while his wife is currently not working. They seem obsessed with being frugal and always having a one-up on us. If we mention a holiday, they've done it cheaper. If we buy something, they'll share how they found a better deal. At Christmas, we gifted our son a Tony box, and they felt the need to explain why their daughter's Yodo Mini was superior. It's disheartening. The husband even talks about retiring in a few years, which feels unnecessary when we know we'll be working hard for a long time. We live modestly, with a small house and second-hand cars, but their comments leave me feeling judged, even if they don't mean to be unkind. I'm seeking advice on how to respond in the moment when the one-upping happens. Should I address this directly, or would that create awkwardness? I want to mentally disengage so it doesn't bother me anymore. I truly value our friendship and don't want to end it. I just want to stop feeling deflated after spending time together.
Update. My 43-year-old husband's affair partner, a 19-year-old, is pregnant, and I don't know where to begin with fixing this. Since my last post, I've been processing everything that's happened. My husband of 19 years confessed to having a 6-month affair with our eldest son's ex-girlfriend. After reading so many supportive comments, I felt validated and ready to take action. That night, after the kids were in bed, I sat down with him. I told him I didn't feel comfortable sharing a bed anymore and that he needed to come clean to our son, James. I also mentioned I would be contacting a therapist for both myself and James, and I wanted to discuss how to approach this together. He sat there, absorbing the weight of his actions. Eventually, he decided to get a hotel room for the night, staying away from the house for a while. I spoke to a therapist that Sunday, and after discussing everything with my sister, I felt it was best to tell James as soon as possible. My sister took the younger kids for the day, sensing something was off. I reassured them that I would explain everything when they returned, and that we would be okay. When my husband spoke to James, he told him the truth without excuses. James was quiet for a long time, so my husband stepped away to give us some space. I won't share how James reacted, as that's his story, but he was clearly hurt. We spent a long time talking and comforting each other. Later that evening, when my sister brought the younger kids home, their father explained the affair and that it was with James' ex-girlfriend. We decided to hold off on discussing the possible pregnancy until we had more information. I'm managing the affair and the pregnancy as two separate issues. James and I have both gotten tested for STDs, and thankfully all results have been negative so far. I'm focused on supporting James through this, while my husband's choices are his own to deal with. James has reached out to Emily about a paternity test, but he hasn't shared his feelings with me yet. We're taking things one step at a time. As for myself, I'm back in therapy. I've taken some time off work to focus on getting through each day and supporting my kids. Once the paternity results come in, I can think about divorce. I've spoken to a lawyer for an initial consultation, but I want to handle one thing at a time for my mental health and for my children. The only contact I've had with my husband since then is him asking about the kids. That's my update for now. I'll share more when I can. I would appreciate any advice on how to navigate a divorce with children involved. I want to make this as easy as possible for them so we can all move on from this mess.
I left my boyfriend alone while he was having a breakdown. My boyfriend is 5'2", and while I don't care about his height, he's clearly very insecure about it. When we met on a dating app, he claimed to be 5'9", but when I met him, it was obvious he wasn't. I'm 5'6", and he was shorter than me. I chose to overlook it because I enjoyed spending time with him. But as we got closer, his insecurities became more apparent. One night, after a few drinks, he ranted about how women are shallow and how he felt he had to lie about his height to get a chance. He even shared that he hadn't kissed anyone at 26. I reassured him that it didn't matter to me, and we moved on. However, as our relationship progressed, he would accuse me of looking at taller men. I hadn't even noticed until he pointed it out. It made me realize he was the one staring at tall guys, especially those with shorter girlfriends. One time, a tall waiter upset him, and he accused him of trying to hit on me. For a week, he couldn't stop crying about it, asking if I would leave him for that waiter. There were other odd moments too. He would text my friends to check if I was being unfaithful, and sometimes he would kiss me too passionately in public. He even had panic attacks over my boss being tall. Last night, after a night out, he was much more intoxicated than I was. He could barely walk and ended up getting sick. When he tried to initiate intimacy, I declined because I didn't feel comfortable with him barely conscious. He became sad and started asking inappropriate questions about my ex, the only guy I had dated. Things escalated quickly. When I answered honestly about my ex's height, he lost control. He threw things, punched the table and wall, and sobbed while hitting the floor. I felt scared and ran out of the room. Growing up with a physically abusive father made me fearful of aggressive behavior. Today, he was angry with me. He said I didn't love him because I didn't comfort him and that I must be repulsed by him for declining intimacy. I'm left feeling guilty and confused about how to process all of this.
ATA for not fighting after my autistic child was excluded? I'm a 38-year-old mom with 2 daughters, ages 10 and 12. My 12-year-old is neurotypical, while my 10-year-old is autistic. This story is about my younger daughter. At her school, there's a rule. If you invite the whole class, you can't exclude anyone. Unfortunately, my daughter struggles to connect with her classmates. She often says things that come off as mean, and sometimes she can be disruptive because she finds it hard to communicate. We're working on this through therapy. Recently, a boy in her class, let's call him Bob, invited everyone to his birthday party except her. When I found out, I felt heartbroken for her. She was devastated, crying about being the only one left out. Her special ed teacher suggested we ask the school to mediate the situation. When I spoke with my daughter, she expressed how much she wanted to go to the party, but I had to ask her why she wanted to attend when she didn't get along with Bob. I reminded her that she would be upset if she had to invite him to her own birthday party. This led to another meltdown, and she cried that it wasn't fair. My husband and I both felt that forcing Bob to invite her wouldn't be right. We thought this experience might teach her about exclusion, something she might face later in life. After some time, I had a Zoom meeting with her teacher and Bob's mom. I wanted to clarify the school's policy about invitations. Bob's mom was confused about why my daughter wanted to attend the party, and I explained that I wasn't pushing for her to go. I just wanted to address the rule about distributing invitations in class. As the conversation unfolded, it turned out Bob had lied to my daughter about inviting the whole class. He had only given invites to his friends, knowing it would hurt her feelings. He admitted he wanted to get back at her for something hurtful she had done before the holidays. Hearing this, I felt a mix of emotions. I apologized to Bob's mom for my daughter's behavior and encouraged the teacher to take action. I also requested that they not tell my daughter about Bob's lie. I felt it was important for her to understand the consequences of her actions without any added confusion. In the end, I didn't want to shield her from the reality of being excluded. I believed she needed to feel the weight of her actions. It was a tough decision, but I felt it was necessary for her growth.
My son has become a red pillar, and I blame myself. His father was extremely abusive to me, breaking my ribs and nearly taking my life. When I left him, I promised myself I would raise my son to be a better man. I wanted him to respect and care for women, to never fall into the same patterns as his father. For a while, he did just that. He called himself a feminist and was genuinely sweet to his now ex-wife. I felt proud of him. But then, everything changed. His ex-wife cheated on him, and his world crumbled. He began to harbor resentment towards women. When I tried to remind him that not all women are like that, he started to distance himself from me. He fell into the red pill ideology, finding validation in their harsh words when I couldn't reach him. They told him every woman was untrustworthy, and despite our conversations, he wouldn't listen. Now he's married to a kind woman, 6 years younger than him, who adores him. Yet he cheats on her and is emotionally abusive. She's 6 months pregnant, and when I went to visit them, one of his affairs called her to spill the truth. She confronted him, and he turned the blame on her, claiming her pregnancy had been too stressful for him. My heart broke for her. After crying her heart out, she still made us breakfast. I tried to reprimand him, but he shrugged me off. I warned him he would lose a good woman, but he just laughed it off, as if her leaving would be a relief. I can't help but feel responsible. I taught him to respect women, but I failed to show him that they can also hurt. In my effort to shield him from his father's legacy, I painted an overly rosy picture of women. When his ex shattered that image, he stopped trusting me. He has now swung to the complete opposite of what I taught him. I realized that in my own trauma, I failed to give him a more nuanced view of the world. He's becoming just like his father, and it feels like there's nothing I can do to stop it. The one silver lining is that he doesn't drink. He witnessed the destruction his father caused while drunk, and it disgusts him. Even now, he refuses to drink, fearing he might lose control.